Do you know what game I like? Sonic 2. Thankfully for me, Sonic 2 is one of the most ported games of all time. I mean, we will have 4 different versions of Sonic 2 on the Switch. But Sonic 2 is only one of many Sonic games. Like, wow, there are a lot of Sonic games. And even though games like Sonic 2, Sonic 1 and Mean Bean Machine game has way more re-releases than it should, are almost on every video game platform, Sega has a real porting problem. Not only do they suck at remakes, but they also never re-release other Sonic games. This is really limiting what Sonic games are available for newer or younger fans of the series. Why do you think people want the adventure games and Sonic Unleashed on all platforms, even though they have modern re-releases with PC and Xbox backwards compatibility? It's because we want everyone to enjoy the same games we do. I can play Sonic Adventure with the Dreamcast models, the better lighting and full widescreen support, but little Timmy with his Switch Lite doesn't even know there exist great Sonic games out there. Well, what this video about? Oh yeah, Sonic Advance. One of these games that are lost in the great Sonic vault is the Sonic Advance series. First released in the Game Boy Advance, the Sonic Advance series are a trilogy of games that were developed by teams in the early 2000s with the intent of bringing back the old 2D games in a new, modern way by combining classic Sonic gameplay with Sonic Adventure elements. I have only played this series of games a couple of times, but have never been in any game in this series because the only means I had for a while was emulating them with an old PC. Needless to say, it wasn't the best. The Sonic Advance series has only been re-released once for the Wii U Virtual Console, but because Nintendo hates me, the Wii U eShop in Latin America had almost nothing to buy, so I couldn't play them that way. But now with the re-release of Sonic Colors Ultimate, my curiosity for playing all the Sonic games grew and grew, starting with the first Sonic Advance game. Does it hold up today? There's only one way to find out. Welcome to the Sonic Advance Retrospective. Before we can talk about Sonic Advance, we need to not talk about Sonic Advance. Sega was in a bad place. The Dreamcast was officially dead, and the state of the Sonic series was uncertain after Sonic Adventure 2. But Sonic fans didn't have to wait that much. After Sega announced the end of the Dreamcast, they also announced that they will start making games for other companies, with the most shocking of them all is their partnership with Nintendo. And the first Sonic game to be available at a Nintendo console was Sonic Advance on December 20, 2001 in Japan, with later version for Europe and the States in 2002. But how could they make a completely new game for a console they had never worked on just 6 months after SA2? And here is when DIMPS comes into play. DIMPS was created by former SNK and Capcom staff. The funny thing is, DIMPS, or at least some of DIMPS staff, had worked on a Sonic game before, Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket. I can't make a video without mentioning at least one obscure game. Sonic Pocket Adventure was a 2D platformer taking older levels with new level designs and gimmicks. It's like Sonic Mania of the past. It's also famous for being the best Sonic game. That's not an opinion, that's facts. Now we can finally talk about Sonic Advance. The story is simple. Eggman bad, Sonic good. But this time, not only do we have Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, but we also have the first playable appearance of Amy in a 2D game. Sonic has his spin dash from Sonic 2 and his insta shield like in Sonic 3, but in this game the insta shield got nerfed to the ground. It still extends his hitbox, but is nowhere as big as Sonic 3. But aside from that, Sonic also has a new slide attack, like in SA2. It's practically useless. The only use it has is to transition into a spin dash if you are a speedrunner. But as a casual, the only use I could find is to destroy items, but it doesn't even work with that. If you hold in the direction of the item, you can slide for some random reason. God, I love complaining. He also has a backflip by sliding twice and jumping. It's completely useless since it doesn't have a hitbox, but it's cool. Finally, Sonic has an air dash by pressing right or left twice in the air. It's cool in concept, but not only does it barely register, but it's also based on momentum, so it's not too good to build speed, rather is to maintain it. but good luck with that. Tails and Knuckles are almost the same as in Sonic 3, but with some new melee attacks like Sonic. They are actually way more useful than Sonic. I actually use them a lot in boss fights. And finally, we have Amy. She's really unique, so I'll talk about her later. First, we pick one of the 4 characters, and let me tell you, do not start with Sonic. You will quickly find that this game is way more like a platformer than other Sonic games. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. The Game Boy Advance has a really small screen, so making the game slower is a great decision to avoid cheap attacks. But don't worry, cheap attacks are still in the game. Like way too fucking much. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After picking our character, we start our first level in Neo Green Hill Zone. It's a pretty good zone. It shows us how this game follows the classic Sonic formula of different pathways, with high routes being faster and low routes being slower and more dangerous. They also show us the more platforming vibes of the level design, with things like these posts that fling you up. Neo Green Hill is also a fantastic introduction to how good this game looks. The backgrounds are not the best and look kinda blurry sometimes, but the sprites, oh my god, the sprites, they look amazing. They really take the Dreamcast designs in beautiful pixel sprites. If you were in Newgrounds on the good old days of the internet, these sprites were everywhere, and for good reason. They are so expressive and full with energy. Later games like Sonic Battle gained more actions and emotions, but they all started from this game. That's too much positivity, so let's talk about physics. Every Sonic fan thinks they are scientists from Harvard when talking about Sonic physics. Like, what do you think this is? Yeah, I thought so. Sadly, I am in this group, which means that anything that is slightly different from the Genesis game is bad. With that said, the physics are actually pretty good. The acceleration is good, the jump is fantastic, like wow, this is one of the best jumps in any Sonic game. You actually build momentum when in a ball. Slopes are kinda hard to navigate. I mean, it's not Sonic Mania levels of good, but it's good enough. My only problem is stopping, because goddamn you can't stop. This makes the spin dash really hard to use. Thankfully, the melee attacks cancel your momentum, letting you spin dash without problems. Of course, I only learned this because of a speedrun, but it's there either way. Another problem some may have is that every character feels slower compared to the Genesis counterpacks. I personally don't think this is a problem. It feels as though they took the GBA limitations into account. Keyword feels. After that little rambling, we encounter our first boss, the Egg Hammer Tank. It's pretty easy, just hit it a ton and boom, he's dead. You may have not noticed because this boss dies in like 4 seconds, but every boss now has a second phase when they get a new ability. And while we're here, let's talk about the rest of the bosses. Egg Press and Egg Ball are also really easy. Egg Ball may take some time, but it's still easy. Now, Egg Spider on the other hand, this boss is absolutely not as bad. Tails, Amy and Knuckles, though we can float, have tools to completely destroy this boss, which leaves us with Sonic. See why you don't pick Sonic first? He has to beat the boss as intended, and this is where most people gave up. But I didn't have any problems. If you jump right next to the platform, Sonic teleports into the platform, making the fight not that hard, once you know this little detail. This actually also applies to the whole game, making platforming not as bad as some people say. Next is Mecha Knuckles. It's very similar to Knuckles from Sonic 3. The difference is that Mecha Knuckles is actually a boss. You basically can only hit him when he's standing still or once he falls from a glide with a melee attack. This makes the second phase tricky due to Mecha Knuckles jumping all the time, but once you stop thinking this is Knuckles from Sonic 3, the fight goes smoothly. Then we have Egg-Snake. This is one of the most tricky bosses in the game, since you need to jump right next to Eggman to flip him and then you can hit him. The problem is everything else. Your jump gets eaten a lot, these balls of energy makes hitting Eggman hard, your rings don't bounce on the ground, make this boss way harder than it should be. At least Tails, Knuckles and Amy have some tools to make the boss easier. But not Sonic. Please don't pick Sonic first. After losing all your lives to this boss, we have the X-Zone bosses, but we'll talk about them later. We should probably talk about the actual stages now. I already talked about Neo Green Hill Zone, so let's talk about Secret Base instead. Secret Base Zone is probably the most original stage in this game. It's a factory with many routes, thanks to the various gimmicks in the stage, swinging hooks, zipline, and these holes. It's also when you start noticing the more platformer vibe of the game. There are very narrow pathways, and your only way to access new areas is to do some good old platforming to access the upper paths. Overall, good level. Next up is Casino Paradise Zone, another casino level. To be honest, this is one of the most boring casino levels in any Sonic game. There are cool gimmicks like these cups that spin you around, the poles that let you go faster, and the classic pinball bumpers that every casino level has. But nothing is that amazing. This is sadly when you start to encounter the wonderful Dim's level design. Get ready to take some damage as a lot of enemies appear in the worst places. You can really start seeing how the quality is slowly dropping as we go, especially as we move further to Ice Mountain Zone, the ice and water level of the game. I normally like ice levels, but this is not one of those. It has a sorta aquatic ruin level design with lower routes having water and higher routes having no water. The problem is the water section of this zone are terrible. These are some of the slowest water physics of any Sonic game, and trying to spin dash is almost useless. Couple that with some great enemy placement, then why not just take the high routes? Good point, taking the high routes in this stage is harder than normal, but it's possible. If you're not Sonic. Even Amy can take some exclusive routes. This is when you realize that Sonic Advance is not a very Sonic game, not to mention the boss, but I already talked about that. At least it's not as bad as Angel Island Zone. Okay, this stupid f***ing level is f***ing sucks. Okay, calm down. I think Angel Island Zone from Sonic Advance for the Nintendo Game Boy Advance is not a pretty good zone. Hope you like bottomless pits, because boy do I have a level for you. And if you think you can just avoid them with Tails or Knuckles, nope. But that is not the only problem. More bad enemy placement, more platforming where if you fall you need to start all over again, and spikes. Spikes everywhere. The levels before had some spikes, but Angel Island is when it really starts to feel like a bad troll level in Mario Maker. But I do have to say some positives. This is when you start to notice how good the normal jump is. Any Sonic game jumping from wheels would be torture, but in this game it's not that hard. You know, until you fall from hitting a spike. Let's just move on to the next level. Egg Rocket Zone is a very interesting level. For one, it only has one egg, but that's not the only special thing in this zone. There's also a time limit. I mean, every level has a time limit, but you get the point. Unlike most Sonic stages, this one is very vertical. It's unique, given that, but outside of that, it's a pretty normally good level. Maybe a little bit long, of course, it's not perfect. Sometimes you can fall down and that can get annoying sometimes, and Dim's level design always strikes. But maybe because I am a but it really wasn't that bad. Now the real problem is Cosmic Angel Island Zone. And let me tell you, you take the high route at the beginning. That determines if it is a pretty okay level or the worst thing ever. I thankfully knew all the horror stories of all the spikes and the bottomless pits, making people go crazy, so it wasn't a problem for me. If you can take that high route at the beginning, it's a pretty easy and straightforward level. It has some gimmicks, but outside of that, it's not the worst. Overall, a pretty okay to meh selection of levels, but just like every other Sonic game, the more you play them, the more you can avoid all the BS and enjoy the levels. And the fact that you need to play all characters means that this learning process becomes more natural. Speaking of characters, outside of our main trio of heroes, Sonic Advance also introduces Amy as a playable character for the first time in 2D, and she is very different to say the least. Her moves revolves around the fact she can become a ball and using her Pico hammer instead. The common opinion is that she sucks in this game and she is not fun to play. And I gotta say, I disagree. Amy can't roll, can't stack when jumping, she has to press the button again to do what every character can do by just jumping. And worst of all, she can't spin dash. She has this useless, but extremely funny, step into falling, which sounds awful in any Sonic game. But as I have been saying during all this review, Sonic Advance feels more like a platformer, and the problems Amy has in her moveset don't feel as bad in this game. Especially when you start using her super jump more, taking shortcuts that Sonic can't. Also, something that is not as talked about as it should be is how teams manage to translate Amy's story in just her moveset. She can't do what the heroes can, but she still tries to impress them by using the few things she's good at, which includes her hammer. Maybe giving her the super pillow from Sonic CD like in the later advanced games would make her more accepted by many, but for me, I think Amy is a great addition. What is not a great addition is, just like the Genesis game before, if you want the best ending of the game, you need all the Chaos Emeralds. The problems start when you try to find the special stages. To do so, you need to find a big spring that will lead you to the special stage. There's only one in every zone, except in Ice Mountain for some reason. Good luck trying to find them on your own, because they are in some of the most obscure places in the world. In my 4 casual playthroughs, I only found one special spring, and that was in the final stage. Needless to say, I wasn't very good at it. But in the game you do find them, and by find them I mean watch tutorials on YouTube, you actually need to beat the special stage. The special stages this time around are a 3D free-falling kind of thing. You need to get the necessary amount of rings to proceed and need to avoid the bombs. There's also these big rings that you need to trick at the correct time. The biggest problem is that the depth perception can be rough sometimes, making you miss rings when it looks like you're right on top of them. Not to mention the background is super blurry, making everything harder to see, and I hope you are a good gamer because you only get one chance to get the emerald. You can kill yourself for another try, but it's still annoying. At least everyone shares the emeralds, making them easier to get by just using tails. Sadly, this means that Super Sonic is not in the game, and by extension Super Knuckles or Super Tails or even a possible Super Amy are not in the game. The only thing you get is the final boss and the good ending, so it feels kind of a waste compared to other Sonic games. But that's not all. If you are like me and decided to go after the emeralds after beating the game and want to travel fast between levels, you can't. You need to get a game over if you want to go to the main menu. Or you can be an idiot like me and reset the game after getting an emerald just to realize it doesn't save. Let's just move on to the final stage. After beating Egg Rocket Zone, we arrive at X Zone. It's just a very small boss rush. You first battle the first bosses of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Cool reference, but they go down just as easy as in the original games. But that was just a warm-up for the real boss, Egg X. I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible. This boss. He's invincible every time he starts spinning and only stops to do 1 of 4 random attacks. He can do this laser, this hand that grabs you, this ball that can be launched up or down, and he can switch sides. The problem is that you will never, and I repeat never, react to what he does, and it feels impossible to not take damage. But not only that is random, when he attacks is also random. So if you plan to attack before he attacks, you will also take damage. The only strategy I could find is to just take damage and then pray that he attacks when I'm invincible. But not even that works sometimes, as the rings can go to the edges of the screen. Also, you can get stuck behind the boss. Overall, this stupid f***ing boss. That's the final boss if you're playing as someone that isn't Sonic. But if you're playing as Sonic and have all the Chaos Emeralds, then you can access the secret final boss. It's fine, nothing more I can say. Just remember you're not flying and you will be fine. And just like that, Sonic Advance comes to an end. Overall, a good game. I know I have been complaining a lot in this review, but it's just that this game has a lot of small problems all over the place. But going back to a time when 2D Sonic was kinda dead, Dims did a good job for a handheld Nintendo console at their first attempt. And if I were introduced as a kid to Sonic after being a Nintendo fanboy in the early 2000s, I would probably love this game. The multiple characters, the amazing pixel art, the great soundtrack, all of that makes this the perfect Sonic game for a time when Sega was making big changes to stay relevant. But in 2021, after all the amazing Sonic games I have played over the years, Sonic Advance falls short of the very highs of the series. And I think that's just okay. That was my review of Sonic Advance for the Game Boy Advance. And I will be seeing you on the next... I forgot the tiny Chow Garden. Look at this little paws. You can play mini games and pet him and you can give him food. Perfect, 10 out of 10.